once that's done, then I'll turn it over to whoever the new chair is, or who we'll go from there.
5:32 p.m.
Live. We're live? All right. Good evening. This is the January 3rd Shade Tree Commission reorg meeting. And we'll call that to order.
January 23rd.
23rd. What did I say? January 3rd?
3rd.
Oh, well, I'm a little behind. Thank you. 23rd. Chris Adams,
Here.
Rob Vanicola,
Here.
Carol Wagner,
Here.
Daniel Flynn.
Here.
All right. Good. All right. We'll have a moment of silence and then the pledge. We stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve your agenda? A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Do I have any nominations for your chair?
I nominate Trish Adams.
Is there a second? Second. Are there any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, we'll close nominations. All in favor of Trish as your chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Trish, do you feel like you can run the meeting from that location?
Sure.
Okay, I will turn it over to you then.
All right. Well, thank you all for your confidence in me. All right. So, do we have a motion for an election of the vice chair? I'd like to make a motion that Rob Vanicola be vice chair. Second.
I'll second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes 4-0. Do we have a motion for the election of secretary?
I nominate Carol.
Second? I'll second it. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0 for Carol Wagner as secretary. All right, so we have our officers. Are you sure that there aren't any others that would, like Dan, is there an officer position that you would like? I guess I'm a little late on asking that, but
I think we got the A squad here. I think we're good to go.
okay. All right. Okay. Do we have any public there that may have any additions to the
No.
agenda?
No public is present.
Okay. So we'll move on to the consideration of approving the minutes from November 26, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to read those minutes? I have. Does anybody have any comments or concerns or changes? Okay, hearing none, then do I have a I'd like to make a motion to approve the Shade Tree Commission meeting minutes from November 26, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Reports. Staff report, committee orientation on Thursday, January 30th from 6 to 8. So I guess that's you, Steve?
Yeah, that's me. So, yeah, we're having committee orientation on January 30th. From 6 to 6:30 will be for all chairs and vice chairs. We're going to go over how to run a meeting, and some basics there. And then from 6:30 to when we get through, which we're planning. I don't think it'll be more than an hour, but if there's lots of questions, it could be longer than an hour. But that's why we blocked it out to 8. Will be for all committee members to come. We'll be doing training on how to use the software, which will also go over a little bit more in depth for secretaries on how to get in and use the software. We'll have a section on the Sunshine Act and also on right to know. So that is next Thursday, January 30th.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So the chairs and vice chairs come at 6, and then what time does everybody else come?
6:30.
6:30. Okay, awesome. All right, thank you. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, moving on to new business. Discussion and possible action on choosing MS4 areas for plantings. Do we have any thoughts on that? Are we ready to talk about that, I guess? I don't know, I'm sort of,
I don't know exactly where the areas are. I mean, Steve, you would know better where where they actually fall. I mean, or Andy, I don't even know if Andy would know.
Yeah, there's an actual map upstairs. Without the map, I would be hard pressed to tell
Yeah,
you
I
the
mean,
exact
like-
areas. But yeah, so MS4 planning areas typically are areas off of township roads. So if you think about township roads and where the water flow goes from those places,
Like the lowest point of the road,
and
basically.
well, any place where the water flows off the road going out onto other property, typically, and because we don't have a lot of curbs, there's a lot of
That's everywhere.
properties
Yeah.
that are water flows. And so, and it can be from state roads if the property, if there's other areas that feed those areas. So, for example, up off of St. David's, there's areas where even though it's not, St. David's is a state road, because of the roads next to them, where the way they flow, the properties next to St. David, quite a few of those are areas. That's
Yeah,
just an example.
I think my customer up on corner Andover, and because it flows all the way through their property.
Yes,
I think they're part of it.
yeah,
And she's always planting trees, so maybe when I plant trees there, I can get,
Yeah, you
get
should-
credit for it.
you
know?
could get credit for
Yeah,
the,
well, the township. could get credit,
township
you
could
know what I
get
mean?
credit, yeah. And so, like, for example, all the trees that were planted last year by the board of supervisors along Westchester Pike don't count, because that's a full state road. The center of the road is their area, and so it didn't count. That was actually pulled out. But and some of the trees that we planted last year along drawing a blank.
Ashley and.
Ashley, that spot, those did not count, because they were in an area that happened.
I thought some did.
Some did, some did not.
Yeah.
And so you have to really look at the
Yeah.
map and understand the ones that do and don't. If you would like, I could go get the map, or,
I think we should wait till Trish gets here. I mean, just kind
Yeah.
of table it. We made a little bit of discussion, but I think wait till Trish gets here, that we can actually look at it maybe
Yeah.
and.
we can make sure, I'll make note to make sure that we attach the map for next time. And so
that
that
would,
pulled up.
do you all have like priority areas that you would like the plantings focused? Have you thought about that, or is that something that would be part of what we would recommend?
Yeah, I think that's part of what you would recommend. I think if you looked at the areas, obviously, we have some that are on township property that makes sense to continue to try to reforest, or forest in the first place. I say reforest, some of them I don't, they may have been forested or not, I don't know 100%, but I'm sure at one point, if we go back, there was a lot more trees in town than there are today, right? And so there are some properties that were there, but there are definitely some properties that are that would be non-township properties that really could be targeted from the street tree perspective. There's lots and lots of places that we could do that throughout the township. And so, other than if you take kind of where the new areas are that we've seen the development, for example, the Lissitor subdivision, the Ellis Preserve, those are kind of peeled out because they've done all this stormwater and had to do all these requirements on their end. Those are often pulled out. But most of the older sections of town, there's lots of areas that would qualify.
Is there a preference that we prioritize MS4 over areas that could really use street trees? Or should we kind of have a mix or a balance of that, or does it matter?
So I'm going to say yes, which kind of answers the idea of probably a balance, but I think that in the light of the fact that we are not going to meet the permit requirements for MS4 on this. I think we were required to be done by the end of 2026. I don't see any possible way that we will have done everything we're supposed to do by 2026. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to continue to work on it. We have a big project in Greer Park that will be a big piece of that. And I'm hoping that we get that bid out this year. But we're waiting still on, we're waiting still on, I forget whose approval we need to take the next step.
EPA.
DEP,
Yeah, one of those.
I forget. I know
Fishing game.
there's two different approvals that we need. And I'm drawing a blank on which one they are right now, but we need those approvals before we can move forward. And I've been told that it would probably take 6 months plus to get those approvals. My understanding is we've submitted for those approvals, but we're waiting. And then once we get those approvals, then we have to go out to bid, get everything done. And then it's going to take probably another, it's a big enough project. It'll probably take 6 months to do that project. And then at least, and then once they do that, then we got to get back in and look at, did we accomplish what we thought we were going to accomplish by doing it? I mean, there's a lot. It's not just as simple as just saying, oh, we did it.
Right, got you.
And that's not touching the Crum Creek side. That's just touching the Darby Creek side. The Crum Creek side, we haven't even started to engineer and design that one yet. So like I said, I don't think there's any way we're going to meet the permit requirements. However, the closer we get on the trees, at least it shows we're making effort. And so I don't want to ignore putting in MS4 trees. I think that's important. I think we could do MS4 trees and street trees in areas that need street trees and be pretty effective, because there's lots of places that need that.
So we had talked about, so of course, that's great. If we have a higher budget, then we can plant more trees. So we had talked about maybe like with aronomic and that it for those trees that couldn't be planted on site, that maybe some of the funds for that would go towards maybe this effort. Has there been any discussion more on like us being able to use impact fees to use to help create or trees?
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem using, if there were impact fees. Aronimink has actually come back and said they intend to plant all the trees back on their property.
Oh, wow.
So they want to reforest on their property, and they have shown the areas where they want to do it. And they plan on, their plan would be to do it over a 4-year period to make sure that the trees are, they want to make it successful versus planting. I think they have to plant like 400 trees or
I thought it was
something.
closer to, wasn't it, with what they're cutting down?
Well, I think after John went out and
Oh,
reviewed it and they
the
did
ones that were already
everything.
dead or diseased, yeah.
But they took out the dead and diseased trees and the ash trees that, don't count. I think they came into something like they had to put in 450 or something like that trees. And so the idea that they came back with a planning design that was approved by the Board of Supervisors that there were places where they would plant these trees throughout their property to meet the requirements. So I don't see us getting money from Aronimink. They get nuts and bolts on that one. And the other project that we had wondered about was the Stony Knoll project, whether they were going to be able to put all the trees in on theirs. And at this point, it actually looks like they've actually came back and are requesting to plant larger trees, and actually some more than what they're required to. So
Okay.
I think they're going to surpass what their requirements are as well.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good news.
So the good news is we're getting good tree canopy being brought back in from where they're coming out. The bad news is we're not getting in a bucket of money that I could say, oh, here, this is for you guys to run off and go plant trees.
Right. Okay.
I can back up just a second. Who's calling? Scam likely. Well, we're not answering that one. So, you had mentioned something about waiting on approval, something 6 months. What was that about? Was that
For
park?
Greer Park.
Oh, okay.
So we're doing a stream restoration in Greer Park.
Yeah,
And so that would be, and that will also be a place where we're going to want to plant quite a few trees in the riparian buffer that we're going to be creating in that location. And those trees would definitely be trees that would be, or would need to be trees that are that can take a lot of water tolerance.
got it. Okay.
Now, for the planting of those trees, would that come out of like our little budget request, or is that part of the whole restoration agreement?
That's part of the whole restoration. We're not taking that out of your budget.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. All right. And then can you remind me, where are we with the approval of our budget request?
So I'll have to go back and pull exactly where we ended up. We didn't quite do as much for everybody as everybody requested. We had a very tough budget year. We actually cut close to $890,000 out of our budget. And so there were some chops that were made across the way just to get to where we were, obviously. We had a lot of, we had several areas in our budget that the revenues for 2024 didn't match what we expected. And so we were taking that into account as we were looking for 2025, or looking at 2025. Give you an example, real estate tax transfer tax, that where people sell their house and we get about 0.5% on each one of those. Or is it 1%? Anyway, I think we split it with school, so it's 0.5%. Anyway, that we didn't see that number that we expected to see. And I even had taken it down but the number of sales was even less than what we had thought. And part of that was the fact that interest rates stayed high when we were hoping they were going to come back down. And so, but then the other thing that stayed low that we thought was going to pick back up because we had all the new people coming in and working at these new shops that have opened was the local services tax, which is that $1 per week that everybody pays to their local municipality that they work in. It's a, it's $52 a year, and you say, well, that's not a big deal, but if you have 1,000 people that aren't getting it, it adds up pretty quickly. And so, or who aren't paying it. And we've had a substantial decrease in some of our large employers on the number of people they have actually coming into the office. And so that has had an impact on us as well. And then our real estate tax itself actually didn't hit the number for the first time in the 10 years that I've been here. And that's related to people doing reassessments. And also a couple of those reassessments were actually pretty significant because they were like apartment buildings and things like that were downgraded quite a bit and in their assessed value. And so that impacted us.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I guess we're gonna need to know where we ended up, and that would be helpful for us to.
I'll make
maybe if
sure that
could-
we get those numbers out to you.
Okay, thank you. And then we could start planning. Okay. All right. Well, let's bump the possible action for the planting to next month. We can maybe come up with a better plan, and I think that might roll into the next one, which is discussion and action on the 2025 fall tree planting. And I guess we can't do too much on that either until we know, one, how much we have in our budget for trees, and then that might dictate, what we're gonna do.
I know
Um,
I will tell you, I know there's, I mean, we didn't cut that totally out, so there's money there, but I'll get you the exact dollar. I want to say it's 6,000, but I'll have to verify that.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay.
7 or 8,
Yeah.
and it's, yeah.
All right, that sounds good. All right. So let's do you want to just move on to old business then?
Sure.
All right, so Arbor Day, we know we need to start planning for Arbor Day. And I think that's gonna kind of fall into this or overall, what are we gonna be doing for tree plantings this year? So let's nail that one down to next month.
Well, Trish,
Unless
we
you
have
guys,
those trees left over from last
oh,
fall.
that's right.
There's
Yeah,
over
that's right.
9 that if we want to use them, they are available. I think George said there's a few that he needs out of there to plant, but because there was some extra ones we bought, but
Yeah.
I think there is enough that, not a mass planting for Arbor Day, but we could use them or whatever on like a township site or something, wherever, the public could come in and help or whatever like that. That it wouldn't be
Okay.
what it was last year when we did down Brookside Park.
Right. So does Steve, does the township have a preference on where we would like to target this year, maybe for Arbor Day?
So I don't know if you've had a chance, I think Rob, you've been out there to the Meadow
Meadow, yeah.
Reserve where we put in the berm. And we planted, I don't know, 6 or 7 trees, maybe a little bit more than that in that area already. But it's big enough that it could actually take some closer to the roadside that would help keep people from actually parking on the berm. I guess people are now pulling in and parking up on the berm.
Are they really going?
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. I mean,
Just what that woman wants with the one at the block, right?
yeah,
Give us somebody
exactly.
that car.
Exactly. You know, it's like everything I didn't want to have happen. But, so we've been looking at, I mean, one option is for me to put in bollards and say, you can't park here but trees would actually be to me, a better, option potentially there. And, you know, Rob, you know that area, you may tell me I can't do what I want to do, but if,
Nah, you could do it,
Yeah,
you know, just because Harry had said they're thinking of making that a whole, and George said they're thinking of making that a whole area anyway. Of
Yeah.
all chips and all, just motion that whole, and instead of cutting it,
yeah,
you know, just make it, you know, wood chip, like, and then if anybody want to plant smaller stuff in there, they could, and then you could maintain it that way.
yeah.
Where's that
you
at?
know. Out there, it's between Episcopal and Lister.
Yeah, there's a 50-acre meadow preserve that the township has. And right at where that 50 acres comes in, and it's kind of off the road. You have to drive back the driveway that's by the old schoolhouse.
Yeah.
That right there when you come up off of 252. And there's just a little driveway back there. All the way in the back, like just before it turns and goes back into Episcopal. That's kind of where that 50-acre meadow preserve starts and goes straight back. And there used to be kind of like a parking pad there. We pulled all that out, brought in extra dirt, created a berm, planted some trees, mostly on the Lister side, so that the folks that on the Lister side would have some kind of blockage to all that was going on there. And I thought the berm would be enough to discourage parking in that location, but it's not totally doing that. So we've talked about, you know, do we need to come in with some trees that would help to discourage it? Or do we come in with some bollards? And I much rather, particularly because of where it is, I much rather come in with trees than
It
with
would look
bollards.
better. It
Is
would
that,
look
is
better.
that an obvious enough place that would be useful for Arbor Day? Or is that someplace that people wouldn't be
I
able to
mean, a lot
find
of people
to?
walk there.
A lot of
A
people
lot of
walk
people
there.
walk there.
Okay,
Yeah, I
And
mean, it's a very
and-
high traffic area.
And hopefully at that point, we'll be close to being able to open it up. My only hesitancy is I don't want to open it up until we have to put bollards out, what they call they're flexible bollards that we have to put out on 252. And I just want to make sure I have a chance to get those in before we start inviting people to go back there, because I can't have people coming out and making left-hand turns or making left-hand turns into it from 252 or back onto 252. And people,
With the traffic all going.
yes,
Right.
yeah, people do. And so before I start encouraging traffic down that driveway,
They cross all the way over that?
yes.
That's insane.
Oh, it is totally insane. And one person found out how insane it was because they ended up in an accident. But so for safety reasons, I want to get those. I forget what they're called, but they're temporary. They're flexible
Permanent, but
bollards.
they flop
Yeah.
up and down.
In case someone has to go, they
And-
can run them over and still.
Well, PennDOT doesn't allow me to do anything else. So
Now, what I'm saying is that they can cross. They can cross if they make a mistake and say, I'm going anyway. They're not gonna like run into a bollard that,
yeah, wouldn't kill them.
yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, so that's one possibility. That's kind of a different park that we haven't touched yet. You know, really much of. I don't think we'll be ready to do anything at Greer this fall or this spring, I mean. So there, I know George and I have talked a little bit here on this property, but I think we're not really quite ready yet either there. We're waiting to do the rain garden first. So that's kind of my first thought, if we want to do it on township property and do it someplace that's pretty easy.
Is there more stuff that can be put in at Drexel Lodge?
Oh, there's for sure more that could be put in the Drexel Lodge.
And
Lots
if we
more.
if we can't come up with any other thing that really, is screaming our name,
Yeah,
I mean, that would be a good spot. It'd be easy for people to find for Arbor Day.
yeah. Drexel and Brookside both, we could continue to do plantings at, if you want to do. Newbie's kind of difficult. We could do some at the top of Newbie. But I don't want to make it so people don't know that it's a park there. So we'd have to figure out what that looked like. But Newbie has quite a few trees. There's a lot
It's
of
very
trees.
wooded down below.
It's,
Newby, yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of wooded area there. But we're losing some, so it might be someplace that we look at it in the future as a place that we would go back. We've lost several ash trees in that area.
Well, do we want to make a decision tonight on choosing a location? What do you guys think, Carol, Rob, Dan?
Well, let me talk to George and ask how many trees he needs allocated out of that.
Okay,
I'm sure if we need a few trees, either the meadow or Drexel Lodge or something, we'll figure something out. I mean, that's not.
okay.
I mean, when is Arbor Day? When is it?
Last Friday in April.
To the end
So
of-
we have a little bit of time to figure it out.
We have a
Get some
little
more
bit of time.
info.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll defer making a decision on that until next meeting or February meeting, but I think we need to make a call then because it's gonna take us a little time to plan for it and stuff. All right,
Also, we had, in the past, we had the Pico or something with their little tree giveaway. And have to find out if there's gonna be something at that same time period to hook up with or not.
I think that was a one-time deal.
Okay,
Yeah, I suspect that they're targeting certain communities, like they're trying to target different communities every year. I'm not saying we won't get another turn, but we probably aren't going to get another turn
with them, okay,
very soon.
got it.
Okay. All right. Any more on that? We ready to move on to the update on the tree inventory and the status of our iPad?
Go for it.
Well, so we've been waiting on, we need the iPad in order to do the training on the tree inventory, and I think, John Hosbach was, kind of taking point on some of this, but Steve, did we get,
I
did the iPad make it?
I actually was going to ask Suzanne, I saw the old iPads on her desk today. So I know she's working on it. I just don't know where she stands on the new one. I apologize. I
Okay,
will tell her that you need it by the February meeting.
that would be great. Or at least know when we're gonna, because we would like to start, once spring comes,
Yep.
kind of at least get our training done, and then we can start maybe in earnest doing the inventory.
Is that one or two we're getting, Steve? Do you know?
I'm gonna have to check with her. She's been trying to make
Because we
a
had the
deal.
one and then we put in the budget for a second one.
Yeah.
You said they were gonna trade a couple old ones in and possibly get two out of it because the one was lost or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, she's trying to make a deal, but I'm not sure how far she's gotten. Suzanne's a deal maker, so I let her go and then,
what's she going down to South Street and trying to? make a
I
deal
don't know.
with?
She says she's got 5 she's turning in to get 2 or something, but
All right.
the challenge is the ones we have won't work for you guys. They're not, they don't have
They're not
enough
compatible,
memory.
yeah.
And so we have to get ones that have more memory for you.
All right.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. All right. Update on what's the status of the shade tree ordinance update or revision?
So with what we had, I believe it's the shade tree ordinance is being put before the Board of Supervisors, at least for their initial, it, what I've done is I've given it to them individually and said, if you can get back to me and let me know if you have any concerns, and then we can take from there and know what direction to go. And
Okay,
that has been sent to them. I probably won't hear anything right away, but usually it gives a couple weeks and I start hearing things. It was sent to them last week.
okay.
So hopefully we'll have some kind of update as to whether they're willing to move it forward, or if they have something they want staff and you to work on before we go forward.
Okay, that sounds good. Do you know if some of the comments and recommendations that we provided, did they stay or were they rejected? Do you have a sense of that?
I think it was kind of, some were added, some were taken out. I don't know, I don't remember which ones were, which ones weren't. That Andy probably could do a better job of telling you which ones stayed and which ones got taken out.
Okay. And I had received a request to provide the comments that we in Shade Tree provided to I think the solicitor. And I didn't do that because I wasn't sure what and this was to a former member of one of the committees. And I didn't provide it because I mean, I'm used to keeping things like that pretty close to the vest until there's been a decision made and then we can share outside. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, but I didn't know how you felt about if it's okay or not to share that outside with outside people. Or we
Anything,
can talk later if you rather.
yeah, I mean, here's what I would say, anything, I'm not sure what the request was. I got a little confused on your statement, so, but let me put it this way. Anything that you have publicly voted on as a group and said, this is where you stand, I think that sharing that
Is
is,
okay. Okay.
it is basically sharing something that you've taken action on as a group. Now, I know that there were some things that were done individually as suggestions that were reviewed. I would say those are probably not ready to go out yet because they haven't gone that far. Because it's not an official document if it wasn't that way, if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally. So because I wasn't sure where we could let things go, if it had to be or shared outside, if the Board of Supervisors already had taken action on it, or if it's something we took action on. So
Well,
if we've
you-
already voted on it, which we did, I mean,
Yeah.
we agreed with these, we had discussion, we had public discussion about it. And we then shared our comments with the solicitor, and we did that officially in one of our Shade Tree meetings. So that
If
version
you've done
would
it
be okay.
officially, if you've done it officially in one of your shade tree meetings, it's probably recorded, it's probably up in the cloud. If somebody wanted to go back and get it, they could get it that way. The one thing that we can't do is say it's an official document of the board
Sure.
because the board hasn't acted on it. And so, but if you've had an official action, it's an official document
Okay.
of your committee. And if somebody asks specifically of that, then we would have to share it.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to double check. I wasn't comfortable without verifying you were cool with it, and I wanted to follow proper procedure.
Sure. No, I mean, I just want to verify the person that's asking you is a committee member from another committee, or is it
A former committee member,
of your committee?
of another committee.
Oh, yeah, I mean, theoretically, we could make them file a right to know request, but I mean, I don't want to make a big deal about it.
Well, we already took action on it, so it's not like it's inside ball or anything. We had
No.
already, and it was on our agenda, so
Yeah,
it
no,
was
I'm
provided in the
fine with that.
packet.
Yeah,
So-
and I, usually what I do is I refer people to the agenda and the action item that was taken and say, here's where you can find that information. And,
Okay,
and so, yeah, yeah, you're fine.
okay, all right, thanks. All right. All right, is anybody ready to talk about plans and goals for 2025? I think we've got some good ones already sort of outlined with plantings, maybe in the MS4, doing a fall tree planting, we're doing a spring planting for Arbor Day. We might be able to fit in another one in the spring, but I think all of this is sort of interrelated to this. So let's kind of nail, my suggestion is, how about we just nail that down, and if you guys have some thoughts on ideas, I think getting messaging, getting our articles out, and thank you so much, Carol, for all the work that you've done so far in championing all that to get stuff into the newsletter. And so aside from tree plantings, is there anything else that we want to do to maybe further our goals as a shade tree commission? So how about our homework will be to kind of think about that, and if you have ideas and would like to spearhead one of those ideas, I think that would be great.
Well, I've got some good news, newsletter wise. I put out an article for the newsletter because we'd missed like the last 3 months
Mhm.
because we had some support issues.
Yep.
There was, so I did a nice article, it went out, and then it just went out sort of on its own individually. I put it out there on Facebook and was credited to the EAC.
I saw that. I was like, wait a minute, I think this is our article.
Yeah, so I've got to make sure that it is, it says article from the Shade Tree Commission before, it's like, so I've got another one planned for this month. So everybody get an idea of something you'd like to write about. And whenever you write it, give it to me. I can always hang on to it until it's time to send it in. I'd like to see some better support this year, folks.
I agree, Carol. Thank you. Guilty. All right. So, all right. Steve, is there any other things that you feel like we should be working on that would be supportive to the township and the township's goal?
Well, I think that, if we can get you guys these iPads and get you started really on doing that tree inventory, that would be huge. And, if you got even just one park a year done, that would be absolutely huge. And if you then took another quadrant and started doing shade trees, street trees that are shade trees like that over a period of time, I think we could have some really big wins in that way. So I think that, and focusing on just education for folks, what the importance of trees are. It's, as I look at it, your focus on education might be the difference between somebody coming in and taking down 30 trees on their lot versus maybe making the decision to only take down 10. And, if and that may be difficult, those of you who make your living taking down trees, but but you understand, like, the value of making sure we have good canopy in the township. And so, the education on that side that we can do to the most number of people is probably a big thing. And so if you can get that out, And if you can help us increase our readership of our newsletter by encouraging people to sign up, that'll help also.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right. Alrighty. Well, if you guys have some other ideas, please feel free to propose them for during our next meeting when we have a discussion about it. Okay. So do we have a jammed house of the public because our meetings are just so awesome and we have a lot of public here?
Room only.
Okay, so I guess we have zero public comment. I think we have our items for the next agenda are basically moving new business to old business. And just yeah, just and our homework assignment. All right.
Steve, do you know if there was any interest in the open position?
Oh, good ask. Are we replacing John Rice?
It's before the board for review. I don't know that we had a person specifically apply for this committee. I would have to go back and look at that. But I know they know it's an open spot. And they are looking for someone for this spot.
So they're looking for somebody. So
Yes.
they put the word out. that-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for that, Rob. I'd forgotten about that. All right.
Yeah, 'cause we definitely want to, and we always try to have an odd number on every committee. So
Yeah, it helps.
it just helps if there's ever like a decision that's 2-2, it automatically means the decision fails. And so we always like to have an odd number on a committee.
Okay.
We'll be working on that.
All right. Alrighty. Okay. Well, if we don't have anything else, then we'll make a motion to adjourn.
Did I hit the gavel there, Trish?
Bang, I guess.
6:20.
There we go. All right.
Nice, Trish.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Well,
Trish.
thank you guys, and I'll see
Hope
you
you're feeling
soon.
better.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Oh, hey, well, I don't know if we're still recording, but I just want to bring this all to your attention. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay on. I don't know if I'm gonna